Welcome back. We are so glad that you continue to join us and have joined us. If this is your first time, can I please say, Aaron, let us both say welcome.
Where am I looking? Right here?
I don't know.
Welcome.
Just one of them.
Welcome. Yeah, okay, but I could probably sneak in that one over there. I don't know.
My name's Adam Kaminsky. This is
Aaron Christie.
That was very professional. Thank you so much for stating it that way.
Well,
and we are.
I've been working on it.
Yeah, you've been working out and working on your presentation skills. Yeah. Now we're super excited that you tuned in and joined our podcast again. Work hard, play harder, where we talk about things entrepreneurial. We talk about things work, life, fun, and how to overcome things, and just a wide variety of different things. We are super excited this week to have with us Evan Manship. Evan, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come and enjoy conversation with us. Well, we'll rank. Do you enjoy the conversation? I guess at the end.
Yeah,
of the show.
We'll take a survey.
We'll see how the next hour goes. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's the coolest office I've ever been at. You guys have an awesome spot.
Oh, thanks for that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We take a lot of pride in it. We like it. We think it's fun, but we always like hearing that too.
Actually, I'll call you out on air. This is so Evan hit me up when he saw our jumbo Minitron.
Oh yeah,
and he was the one that was like, "Hey man, I need one of these made." And then I asked you about it. You're like, "Well, my dad still has the thing. Let me talk to my dad." And then I was like, "I forgot to follow up."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, it's fine." And I was like, "But now this is
now
the
that
guy.
You've seen it, yeah,
this is the guy. So you can call him out now and see if they can get you one made."
Yeah.
Aaron's a perfect syndicate of saying, "Blame this guy." This guy.
I've never really noticed that out of him. As he ran out of the office this morning, forgetting to pick somebody up at the airport, and I heard him yell, "This is your fault, Rick."
That's a true story. I was like, I don't know how, but somehow this is your fault.
No, it's fantastic. Evan, why don't you give us a little bit about your background? You got your hands in a lot of different things, and are a believer in entrepreneurship and people and culture, and so let's just jump right in and give us a little bit of your background.
Sure. First and foremost, I was on a podcast about a month ago, and I heard from my wife, speaking of blaming someone, that I didn't give immediate acknowledgement to the fact that I'm a husband and a father right out of the gate.
Yes.
Because I'm a new dad of a 19-month-old.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Say new, but 2 years later, it still seems weird
That's
to say.
new. That's new.
Yeah.
If you're still counting in months, it's new. It's okay.
Unless you're saying like 54 months, then you got to go.
I told myself I'd never be a month guy, and here I am being the 20-month-old guy. So she'll be 20 months on the 28th. Elizabeth is her name, so I'm a proud daddy, proud husband. First and foremost. Secondly, big entrepreneur guy. Wasn't initially. Center Grove guy, Southside guy, so that's how kind of I got connected with Aaron and his network right away. But graduated Center Grove in 2009, and as a part of required reading that Center Grove offered for everyone going into accounting and finance-related courses, there was a class called financial planning that they offered.
Dave Ramsey?
And Dave Ramsey was a part of it. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a part of it. All the stuff you hear in every podcast alive anymore, right? Like the same book, same names. But it wasn't a, hey, you should read this book. It might help you out. It was, hey, we have a quiz on the cash flow quadrant on Thursday. Now go.
Yeah.
And that really opened my eyes that there were different avenues to life than just going and getting a job and paying it to the man and being done with it.
Yeah.
But that's what kind of opened my eyes to, okay, there's a different avenue to this. So went to school, paid my dues, got my finance degree, which is a feat of its own, the fact that I graduated.
Well, and before we move on real quick, because we're getting into the college years now, I'd be remiss if I just didn't bring up that we, Aaron and I both live, work, and have children that go to Franklin Central. Big rivalry between Franklin Central and Center Grove.
Is it?
Oh, yeah,
is that
huge. I'm bringing it up because my kids who are on the football team.
Oh,
and,
okay.
When I say there's a huge rivalry, it's more of us versus,
little one-sided rivalry.
Yeah, little one-sided thing. Like Center Grove's the one team we can't get kind of thing, and so it gets a little rough.
So here I am like, is it really?
Yeah.
This is like, it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, all right, Center Grove. I got my mind past that now.
No, so it's interesting you bring this up, and I'll reverse it real quick. Just a personal anecdote. I've long been this height and this wide. So I've never been an ultra athletic dude. I've never been shredded ripped like Durango or Aaron. But I was on the football team forever. And eventually it kind of came to me like, hey, man, you're in a class with 800 other people. You are not going to start on this 5A, 6A now, essentially Division I football team. Like, you're not good enough. So, which really bugged me because I always wanted to be that guy, the jock, and date the cheerleader, and I just wasn't that guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of decided, how can I differentiate myself and still have an identity within this sphere of things, and kind of decided, look, there's an opportunity for it still to be around the football program without being, required to do these 3 days, 4 days, have an 8-pack and all this other stuff when you're 16 years old. So we got started back in 2017. We were the first 2017. I keep saying that 2007. We started the first Center Grove tailgating club in Center Grove history. Which this ties into my kind of passion for entrepreneurship now. Is it was something that was brand new, something that wasn't school sponsored, something that no one had any hands in, and we ended up going through. Have you seen pictures of my van?
I don't think so.
You're gonna love this. So, can I pull up my phone? And
Yeah,
show you?
absolutely. Yeah.
And then we'll throw it up on screen. You'll have to send it to us, and we'll throw it up.
Yeah, you're gonna love this. So, we decided that we wanted to be a part of this. We love the Center Grove football. All of our friends played on the football team. Some of them work for our group to this day. But we decided we wanted to do this, and the best way we can think of to put on for our team was to start a tailgating organization.
So now, real quick, while you find this, how many cool vehicles do you have? Because I saw you drove another one here.
So
we'll get into.
That's a great question. I have 6, and everyone's got their thing, I think. Some people like Corvettes, some people do Ferraris. My thing is obscure vehicles.
Yeah.
So we had a bucket truck with a big cherry picker on it. We have a school bus, 44-seat school bus that we still have now. That's all wrapped up in our stuff.
Do you own the chicken limo?
We don't own the chicken limo, but if one came for sale, I could make it the Cockmobile, and we'd be just fine. I think it'd be important. Durango's bumping his shoulders here. That's right. So to answer your question about obscure vehicles, this is what kind of was the catalyst for that, which kind of introduced, okay, there's a different way to look at any given thing. But my mother, I didn't come from any money. My mom was a teacher at Greenwood Middle School for years and years, and my dad was a pencil pusher for Eli Lilly. Now he works for our group. But we had a 1992 Plymouth Grand Voyager that Mom kind of carted us all around in when we were kids.
Okay.
And it was just a van, just a normal blue-collar hillbilly van. And Mom decided to upgrade. This is in 2007 to a 2003 Infiniti G35, and you would have thought that we would be, lived in Highland Park or something. We were the guys, right? Mom drove an Infiniti. So without asking her, one day we had some buddies over and we started painting.
You said without asking?
Absolutely without asking. We started painting the van here.
Okay.
Jackson and Preston, this is not allowed. Disclaimer right now. Don't. Those are my kids. I swear to God, if they paint one of our cars because of this podcast.
I say it's okay, guys.
This is a shoot.
His cars.
I'm a shoot first, ask questions later type dude. Ask for forgiveness. Ask my wife. But we started painting this thing step by step. Paint. Really digging into a couple different cool things we could do. And we just got one step after another. We started looking into different local vendors on the south side to sponsor wheels, to sponsor paint, to sponsor interior stuff.
For this, and the pitch was, hey, we're starting a tailgate club at Center Grove. You want your name on our van kind of thing?
Yeah, and we had a great team. So my senior year, 2008, was the first year Center Grove ever won the state title.
Okay.
So that was the Jordan Llewellyn years, the Luke Swift years, the Tanner Riley years, things like that. But that was my senior year, so everyone knew we had a good team. There were a lot of eyeballs on the team and kind of the pregame. And that was when right before Ray Skillman kind of went crazy and did his thing. So that's what our van looked like after it was all said and done. We secured 7 different sponsorships on behalf of
that's cool.
that van. There you go. And that was the kind of the ringleader behind the.
That's awesome.
You can scroll, yeah. But we
don't scroll too far though.
Yeah, never.
That's right.
Never.
Can't be trusted.
That's really cool.
So we did a deck and we had all the lights and stuff. And that's.
So do you still have this?
We gave it a nice little funeral. We took it in the middle of a cornfield and shot it with a bunch of paintball guns and blew it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So what did your mom say when she came home and saw this when you first started doing it?
Much like me starting my own group years later, she was petrified. You know, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. Furious.
Yeah.
And fast forward to when we led the homecoming parade, our senior year, and led the float out. And we had like a couple firework shoots or whatever on there. We were lighting fireworks off during the parade. So seeing that, it was like, oh God, this is cool. Like they actually know what they're doing. And again, in a microcosm, I'm rambling now, but that was the catalyst for my entrepreneurship. It was like,
awesome.
You can take something that means nothing. It's a car that has no trade-in value. Let's just try something new. Yeah. So we did, and it went nuts, and that's what really led me to.
Isn't that cool though when you do bold and obscure things, like what can actually transpire out of it. Just because you're bold enough to think about something or do something or ask for something or whatever, especially when it's outside the box. Sometimes it's easier. I wouldn't say easier necessarily, but it just, you can get people on board with you. It's really interesting.
I know what you're saying by easier though, because there are things that you're like, you hear stuff that people did, and you're just like, why didn't I think of that? Like, you know what I mean? That was it's something that hadn't been done. Yeah.
We several years ago we had a communication and persuasion class that I took.
Yep.
And they showed us this like Dateline special of this guy that had a goal to start with a red paperclip. You guys might have seen this.
Oh, this is beautiful. I have seen this.
He literally starts with a red paperclip, just a paperclip. And his goal was within 100 trades, I think it was. He wanted to make 100 trades and own a house by trading this paperclip.
I did not see this.
And so they did this Dateline special, and I think he ended up doing it in like 68 trades or something. Like he beat his whatever the goal was. And so they talked to us about the power of persuasion. Anyways, we did this class. It was downtown Indianapolis, and so they go through this, and we're like, oh wow, that's really cool. Like and you're writing down all the leadership lessons that correspond with this, and communication lessons, and yada yada. And we get to the end, and they're like, all right, this group of people, you're together, and you're kind of like, well, what's going on? And then sure enough, they hand us all a paper clip, and they're like, all right, you guys have 4 hours, and it's a contest, and see who can bring back the coolest stuff. And so we literally went there. So I think there was like 5 groups of like 4 individuals per group or something like that. And there was like some people had like, I don't know.
A red paperclip?
Yeah. One group had one group had like a pen. The other group had, just some stuff. And then there was a couple groups that did really well. I was lucky enough to, me, I'm not afraid to talk to anyone or ask anyone for anything. And then thankfully, somehow I accidentally got paired with 3 other people that were just like me.
Nice.
And so we actually, to take another parable that goes along with this, we actually took a few minutes and we just stayed in the room to plan what do we think we could do? Where could we go to get the biggest bang for our buck? Well, everyone else just kind of ran out right away. So we sharpened the axe.
Yeah.
And then we went out. We ended up with, started with a bag of coffee. Then we, at Patachu, right next door to the hotel we were doing this training, and then traded up. Anyways, we had a sports memorabilia package that was literally worth, by the time we got done with this, that was worth $2,500. Just from all the different stuff that we ended up collecting. We got on the radio. We got on WIBC with Dan Dockich. Like, for real. He was like, what are you guys doing? That's crazy. Come on in here real quick. Well, they told him.
I think, even that, I mean, you say, so you have this package, whatever, $2,500, and what you essentially did is you traded that $2,500 value of the sports memorabilia package for a spot on the Dockage show, which is worth, Lord knows how much money people are paying for that. So it doesn't end there. I think you're still, not still, but you know what I mean? You're still trading up in values to some degree with that stuff. That's cool.
So, but it's just, so when you talk about, when you do those obscure things or those bold things, it's amazing what you can actually come up with.
I can go on and on, but that was the first step for me. Where it's like, okay, now I sort of get it.
Yeah.
And to continue my story is nothing fancy, but went to school, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old.
Where'd you go to school?
A little Catholic school called Xavier Basketball School in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's an awesome city. Love Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But went to Cincinnati for 4 years, came right back. But the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to be broke. I mean, that was the height of the financial crisis when I was there. So 09, 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I wasn't going to walk out and grab a job anytime soon. So it's like, I'm going to graduate with $100,000 in student debt. I'm already broke. Let's do something bold and see what happens. Let's buy our first handful of houses. If we can get some schmuck to lend us money, and that's their problem, not mine. So that's what we did. We bought our first, my brother and I, my twin brother Clay and I do everything 50-50 and put our names together and kind of both jumped into our first couple of houses, and they worked, and one led to 2, led to 10, led to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and here we are. So that stupid thing with the van, the fact that my parents were cool enough to just say, whatever, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Led to me having the gig that I have today, which is really cool to think about.
That's cool of them too, to allow that and then kind of let that grow in you by saying, hey, you know what? You're crazy, but give it a run.
And that's my favorite thing to throw back in their face too. Is like, oh, you're scared about it? Cool. It means it's going to work. So
yeah. That works for some parents. It doesn't work for others.
i.e. Adam is a parent, right?
Look into this camera right now.
Kids, listen here.
Now, so tell us a little bit about your business then. What do you guys do?
So my group, I have two different groups that work in tandem. Midwest Cash Offer is our seller-facing magnet. So my group, the most succinct way that I've found to describe it is we are a pawn shop for real estate.
Okay.
We help people liquidate an illiquid asset. We buy for A, we sell for A plus B. Oftentimes, much like someone who has a 1800s penny or something, or a dollar bill with Martha and George Washington both on it or something. They don't know what it's worth. They don't care what it's worth. They want to get it out of their house, liquidate it. They know it's worth something. Give me some money. Get me the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
We do that with real estate, and we turn around and we resell these properties to investors for the most part. Clay and I also operate a third kind of a 2.5 company of ours. It's the Manship Foundation. It's a IRS chartered 501c3 that focuses exclusively on affordable housing.
Okay.
So a big passion of ours. We think everyone deserves the opportunity to buy a home, not the obligation, which is where a lot of people are at now. Is I got to buy a house. It's part of the American dream.
Yeah.
And we can dive into that later. But Midwest Cash Offer helps sellers. Mainstay Property Group, its sister company, helps investors. So Midwest Cash Offer finds sellers. Mainstay finds investors. We bridge that gap, and we take a spread for doing so. We'll do $4 or $5 million in revenue every year. We have 24 folks on staff. We're in Southern Broad Ripple, and we have a lot of fun doing it. We've got a really, really similar office to yours. It's not quite as cool, but
It's pretty cool, man.
You've been there a handful of times. That's right.
I've been in there. I stuck magnets all over your office.
I remember that. I still got one sitting downstairs. I saw it today.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so real estate's the name of the game, but again, I'm a finance nerd. That's where my background is, and Dave Ramsey guy, not a believer in debt at all. So we know we're leaving money on the table with what we do, but we sleep pretty well at night knowing that we don't owe anybody anything. So that's just a personal belief of mine, and
that's cool.
So we like real estate. We like the culture thing's huge for us. We got a really, really, really tight knit group of people that we work alongside. A lot of folks I've known since I could, barely shoot a basketball, which is cool. Fun. So it's a neat thing, and real estate's a fun industry to be in for sure.
So let's just since we're talking about it, I saw the car that you drove here. Let's go back to the car thing for a minute. You drove a hearse here.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Again, bold move, Evan.
Bold move. Let's see if it pays off. Now, so I started asking you out there, and then we were like, hold on, never mind. I don't want to know. Like, I'm going to ask you on the podcast, what's the deal with the hearse?
First things first, I guess I learned at a really, I don't say young age, but, I was 16 when I started doing this van thing. Yeah. And I noticed that, the more we opened our mouths, the more we showed up, the more you just did weird, cool, out there things, this podcast included. Yeah. You get someone's eyeballs to open once, you get someone's mouth to open once, it's worth it already. Yeah. So that's kind of where it all started from an obscure vehicle standpoint. Yeah. 1992 Plymouth Crane Voyager. But I've always been interested in obscure vehicles because they're fun. But we had a warehouse that we own in Fountain Square. Can I tell stories? Is that okay? I don't want to
that's exactly what we're here to do.
They've heard us talk enough, man.
I don't want to get too anecdotal here, but had a warehouse owned in Fountain Square, leased it to a gentleman right before COVID. Yeah. He is a licensed mortician in Indianapolis, but he was not performing true mortician duties. So for those of you not familiar with the mortician side of things, that's full-blown embalming, doing all the weird stuff that kind of makes it creepy, right? In the lease, we made that super clear. He's not going to do any mortician stuff, no embalming, no bodies, no nothing. He's just performing funeral ceremonies and empty casket type situations, have people to the warehouse. Hey, how you doing? Hugs, kisses, leave some flowers, adios, right?
Got it.
So COVID...
I just because my mind's not going to be able to let me move on past this point. So when you say warehouse and mortician services on the light side, I'm literally thinking of remember the warehouse from Public Enemy that he has to go hide in for a little bit? So tell me what this warehouse looks like.
This warehouse, I say warehouse, and people are probably thinking those Amazon, 1,000,000 square foot warehouse, concrete tilt-up.
I'm thinking of some old decrepit building with people kind of coming in and out.
So it's not quite that, but it's the next step up. Okay. So it's like a 1,800 square foot A-frame on slab. metal-sided building.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
maybe that's, you know, it's a flex space, essentially, just a little flex suite.
Yeah, flex
Okay.
for dead people.
Yeah.
For dead people. Yeah. People are they're dying to get in.
Oh, got him. Where's the button?
Yeah, where's the drum roll, Durango? You got it. The
find
time's
it.
Womp,
passed.
womp, womp, womp.
I
How about that sound?
I got another joke coming. Don't worry about it. So we leased it to this guy. We bought like this. There are 2 acres, 8 properties, one of which is the warehouse that we bought.
Okay.
It's in our portfolio. We're leasing them out. We're just doing the landlord thing.
Yeah.
Lease it to this guy. COVID comes, and a lot of the properties that Clay and I own are near downtown or Fall Creek Place, Heron Morton, that type of area, just north of downtown. We worked a lot with nurses for some reason. We were super heavy concentration risk on nurses.
Yeah.
And if you recall, during COVID, a lot of nurses got laid off or put on what do they call it?
Furlough. or
Whatever it was
Yeah,
called. But they
yeah,
got essentially said, come back later when COVID's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And man, that sucked for a lot of those nurses because their income obviously dries up.
Yeah,
So-
for a lot of people, but yeah.
Yeah, and you know, especially for you think you're pretty safe if you're a nurse.
Yeah. That is the crazy thing. I was like, who's going to take care of people at the hospitals? And then they couldn't get enough nurses. Yeah, it was weird. It was a whole weird
There was
thing.
like a 90-day period where everything was just messed up, right?
Yeah.
So we decided to essentially waive rent payable from our tenants for 2 different months, May and June in 2020. Simply because we don't have a bank, no one's barking at our back. We had the ability to do it. It was, just a little bit of a gift, and it caught on. The news got a hold of it and interviewed us and stuff. It was really neat, and not because it was a
So it wasn't even a deferment; it was a true wave.
true,
that's
just
awesome.
amnesty for rent. Yeah, it was really cool, and we were happy to do it, but not because it looked good to us, but because it felt
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we could, right?
Right.
So the gentleman who was in this warehouse got wind of the fact that on the radio or on the news or whatever that we were saying, yeah, all of our tenants got free rent for 2 months.
Nah.
Uh-oh.
And, I was just kind enough to say, well, I didn't mean you, but sure, just sure. Okay.
Yeah.
1 led to 2, 2 led to 3, 3 led to 4, 4 led to 5. And it's like, man, you got to get the hell out of here. Like,
Yeah.
You're not paying. You just stop. You can't just, well, it's my warehouse. And whatever they call it, the squatters' rights type deal or whatever. Went on and on. I'm blabbing now, but long story short, fast forward to when we evicted the guy. He had a huge judgment that he owed us, $8,000-9,000, and he said, "Well, I don't have the money. I don't have whatever. So here are the keys. Adios. Whatever's in there is yours. Hearse outside." So that hearse became my hearse simply because this gentleman didn't pay rent. Went through all his stuff, got the title imported and domesticated here in Indy. It was a Pennsylvania car. So 3 months later, got the hearse and said, "Well, it'd be kind of cool if we made this like a fun little obscure vehicle. Let's wrap it up. Let's put some 22s on it and some speakers in the back." And that's exactly what we did. So that's why I drove that car here. Fast forward, we evicted a guy who tried to play games, and his hearse is now my hearse.
You made lemonade out of lemons. I like it.
Yeah, sour lemonade, but it's fun.
Sour.
It's fun
I don't
lemonade
know,
to drink.
man.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm just trying to keep up, man. I saw all the stuff outside with you guys, and I've always been impressed by your brand. So
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
That again, I just keep going back to bold moves with you and rocking those 22s on about a
On the low pros.
quarter-inch low profile tire. I was like, every rim has got to be bent because
Do
of the mean
not go
streets
down Shelbyville Road.
of Indianapolis. Oh,
Shelbyville Road. Like there's a beam I saw. Now they have patched it recently and they redid it, I think, actually completely, but it was so bad and they kept putting little patches out there and then it was gone.
Yeah.
in like a month. They used to have a meme where there was like a Jeep in a pothole, like sticking like halfway gone.
It's like a moon
on
crater type thing.
Shelbyville Road. Yeah, it was so bad. Oh my gosh.
it's rough. I chipped a tooth the other day driving down
tough.
Elmwood. It was the worst.
It was either that or try and drag out the big school bus that we have, and that is really interesting to try and drive. And again, like everybody's got their own thing. Some people want this indoor pool or some big McLaren or something, and for me it's like I have the ability to go drive a school bus to lunch. That means whole hell of a lot more to me than some of the stuff. I get to come to the school office every day. So yeah, we enjoy that stuff. And it really started with just doing bold things. If someone else is not doing it, chances are I want to be doing it simply for that reason alone.
Yeah. So you said you got 6 of these kind of random cars, or
Yeah, we have. Let's see.
you got the bus and the hearse. We got that.
We got the bus and the hearse. We have 3 trucks, which again, not really obscure, but they're just flat out fun to drive. And then we just got a little like 1970s Volkswagen Beetle.
Oh, that's
which
cool.
it's got like the rear engine and everything. It's cool. It's
Yeah.
really cool. We're trying to get it to run, but that's our next project.
So
Was it
do
those
you
like
work on
3
these things?
speeds or something?
I'm the least handy guy alive, like bad.
Well,
Second
hold
least
on.
handy.
Yeah, calm down.
Ask my wife, it's bad. So I can't change a light bulb. So no would be the short answer to that question.
Gotcha.
I can work on a car to save my life.
No,
Gotcha.
but you got to know people. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Or pay people.
Just got to know somebody that at least knows somebody.
Yeah.
Right,
exactly.
Durango?
You're right. It's fact.
Especially when it comes to like picking up closets and stuff like that. Like you got to know a guy for that.
Picking up closets, I feel like that's a story on its own.
Yeah, we should probably move on. So you talk about the culture of your business. That's something that's super important for us too.
Extremely.
And you know, we always talk about our culture is there because we're intentional with it and we drive it. You know, we don't really let it happen. We make it happen. Mm-hmm. And so for you, what does that look like?
Well, our core value, that's a really cliche thing to say, is our core values, our mission statement. I feel like, that's some consultant somewhere blabbing in the wind. So I pick one of our core values that really is like our core value, and it kind of drives everything else that we do, and that's demand enthusiasm. And that's in everything that we do, whether that's your personal life or while you're sitting in this seat or anything that happens within the walls of this building.
Yeah.
Is enthusiastic. We don't want people to come in here and ho-hum through life. That's not how we work.
Right.
So we're intentional about making sure that the best way to find yourself in our building is to demand enthusiasm in any different part of your life, and certainly the best way to find yourself out is the same reason.
Yeah.
So we have core values. In fact, if you've been to our office, we got them graffitied up on the wall
cool.
as soon as you walk in. And we have different outings every certainly twice a quarter, just for that exact reason. No other reason, whether we hit goal or not, just to make sure that those items are kept as top of mind as possible.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So
it's a really cool office, but you'll have to go visit it sometime.
Yeah.
They did a really good job decorating. Like you guys have like a map of the city too, if I remember right.
Yeah,
like right on the wall of all the different things.
Yeah, so I've been a Monopoly guy since I've been a little kid, and back in the day I didn't know what a mortgage was or what houses, hotels, whatever. It was some fun game.
Yeah.
But my wife and I were in the Canary Islands, and we're sitting there in the pool. We'd had too much to drink, and it was, you should make a big Monopoly map of all the different neighborhoods in Indianapolis. And like, oh, that's kind of genius. That's kind of genius. I like that. So what Aaron's talking about is I've got a wall probably this size, maybe a little bit bigger. And it's a big map of the city with different, Monopoly cards for Eagle Creek and Carmel and
that's fantastic.
Yeah, Monument Circle. Yeah. So just to kind of give investors and vendors and whoever else just kind of a reminder of where we're at, what we do, what we believe in, and all that nonsense. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find a really weird vehicle to drive over there and go take a look at their office.
I got a couple you can borrow too. That's.
We got to.
I feel like I need to impress you now.
Yeah, we got to show up with something where you're going to be like, oh, okay, all right, I see what's going on here.
You show up with an Indy roof El Camino or something like that. I think that's going to be
an El Camino. Man, I haven't seen one of those for a while.
I passed one. I passed one when I go to my parents' house. It's a '69 too, and it's
that's sick. That's cool.
It's rusty, but man, I would love to get my hands on that.
You'd have to
stop.
You'd have to get a mullet too, though, if you got that. Just like flowing in the windows
my kids
down.
rock it, so why can't I?
Have a mullet. It's back in style, man. So you got.
Yeah, but they say if it was in style when you were young, and then it goes out of style and it comes back into style, you're not allowed to do it.
Is that true?
That's the thing, I guess.
So,
which I never had a mullet.
One of my friends, Billy Supple. I met him through my wife. He's the one that drops all the stone at the property and helps us out with all that stuff. He's had a mullet forever. And I think his wife said something on Facebook or whatever. She's like, well, if mullets are back in style, Billy's been in style since 91 or 87 or whatever it is. Oh, my gosh.
That's fantastic.
It's funny. Culture, to go back to it, like even little things like that are so unique. Every person's got their own little personality, at least in our office, and certainly the same. We've been joking about your folks since I've been here.
Yeah.
But in the best way, like just being able to take that personality and not really put borders around. Okay, you can't act like this, and you can't say this, and there are lines, right?
Yeah.
As business operators or whatever, like we all know there are lines, but you kind of have to give people their own. You can't put too many guardrails around, or they're not going to be them, and they're not going to stick around. And we found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
So we're still trying to figure out what makes that perfect, but if you can let someone kind of run on their own time frame, their own schedule, their own way of doing and saying things, like that's their own life. That's them. And you're actually hiring them instead of the ghost version of what they could be. And I think that's been a pretty fruitful thing for us.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think that's a ton of validity in that. I was reading something not too long ago that said the best thing that you can do for a team member to help them be more creative, or even just a team in general, is to try to have meetings outside while you're walking, which is only works for like 6 months out of the year for us with where we live. But, doing that kind of thing to get people to just kind of be their authentic selves, and finding ways to do that, because it's again, you hired them for what you saw in them and you want them to be them.
Right. Not some, again, we call it the ghost version of themselves, but that's the first thing that we start noticing when people are, they got a foot out the door, is they start to kind of retreat into what they think you want them to be and not who they actually are.
Yeah.
And we've saved.
That's interesting.
We've
That's
saved
really
half
interesting.
a dozen people, including a woman who, we can go on and on about this today, where it's like, hey, something's going on. Let's go talk. Let's go grab a beer at lunch and just full transparency. No guardrails. What's going on?
No, that's a great observation. I've just thinking on many situations where that is exactly what happens.
And it's, again, they're great robot, but we didn't hire a robot, right? We hired a person.
Yeah.
So anyway, if there's one thing we're good at, we're bad at plenty, but we're very good at kind of identifying that and trying to save those situations.
It's funny that this came up. We have a trainer in working with our team for the next 4 days, and that's one of the main things that he was talking about, that it's so important to be successful is you can't have two versions of yourself. You can't have a home version and a work version, right? You got to be yourself. Otherwise, it's an entire thing where you're just putting up this facade about who you think people want you to be, and by being yourself, people know that, and they let their guard down and relaxes and lets them in.
And it's I don't want to say catastrophic, but certainly it's detrimental, to be put politely, because there's no winning for them in either side of it. They're their personal self at work, which is bad, and they're their work self at home, which is bad, and they're constantly battling against themselves to figure out what that is. So I think a trainer would go a long way, and something that we implemented back in October is we have what we call our director of personnel now, who, again, he's not a trained sales coach, but he's more a little bit of a life coach. We're bringing in these guys who are a lot of the times working on damn near straight commission on some of this stuff, and they have they got mouths to feed and lives to live. So how do they make the most out of a situation where they have expectations that are sky high? They got to learn this, do this, act this way, but simultaneously don't be a robot. Go. It's like, that's a hard thing to do when you're 22 years old, coming right out of school. So we've put a lot of time and effort, certainly recently, into doing that over the last year, and we've saved. Again, I'm talking like I'm Jesus or something, but we've really put a lot of effort into our people, and it's been proven fruitful.
Yeah, I'll share a phrase with you that will help you, and that is that businesses don't grow, people do. And when you focus on your people, your business can't help but grow.
And similarly, I agree with that, and thanks for sharing. I heard from a gentleman who I respect very highly, runs an identical company to mine out of Washington, D.C., $30 million a year company. 6 times the size of mine. I'm sitting here thinking I put time and money into people. People don't leave jobs; they leave managers. Same story, right? The second your manager makes you a ghost to yourself, deuces, you're out. So again, I think tactically, tangibly, what we've done that's made us different than a lot of the other folks in our industry is we put we take the time to train them. Yeah. We take the time to pour into them personally, right?
Yeah.
We had a gentleman who had our director of personnel had his little girl 2 months ago, and he's on his 2nd month of paternity leave. So giving them the time to be a person first, so they can come and they can be an employee after. Live to work, or work to live, not live to work.
Right.
Is hard for me because I'm a hard ass when it comes to some of this stuff, but you have to be. So that's my soapbox. But it's been the last year and a half really focusing on what makes that fruitful.
That's really cool, and it's we love talking to and being partnered with in some way, even if it's just friendly conversation or more than just a conversation as an engagement, but being with like-minded business owners that do have a focus on people. It's key. I think it's, how do you manage, this is something that, a lot of businesses face when you do have a focus on people, but then you come down to kind of brass tacks where that doesn't eliminate completely tough conversations either, and performance conversations and all that. And I think sometimes it's easy to kind of like, well, you just have to be people focused only, and you got to just, if they have a bad 1 month, 1 quarter, 1 half year, 1 full year, like it is what it is. You're a people business. Well, you still have to manage, you still have to coach, you still have to perform, because all businesses exist to make a profit. How do you guys manage that balance?
We've been terrible about it for a long time, and I think it's in I'm an optimist, I'm an entrepreneur. we've been successful. So top of mind, it's like, here's what I've done that's so great. I've poured into people. We got the cars and the office and the culture. Man, we are terrible at hard conversations. Horrible at hard conversations. And you show me someone who is a good performer and a bad manager, I'll show you a company that's not going to succeed.
Yeah.
So I've learned that the hard way. We've got our ass kicked dozens of times from people who can't manage people. And our previous COO is a terrific example. We have a handful of leaders right now that struggle with that. With, he so-and-so. And again, I'm not blasting soccer practice or kids or anything else, but it's, man, like if there's always an excuse you got to make for someone, they ain't the guy.
Yeah.
And it's okay to sit there and have a public execution of sorts. Like, look, this is just not working, and kindly exit.
And the thing about it is too, with having those tough conversations, it actually frees up. I had a leader teach me this years ago. That person's not enjoying life either. Like they're feeling the pressure. And when you invite them to leave, sometimes it's as much as a freedom for them. It doesn't feel that way in the moment. It, of course, never feels that way in the moment. But I've had people where, you see them a year later and like, hey, just wanted to say thanks so much for helping me get on and into a job that I now love.
Right.
And I'm living my best life because of it. And, you kind of set that path up.
I would argue that 90% of the people who have had conversations like that, they're at the end of that Y in the road anyway. Like they must make a decision.
Yeah.
And they're leaning strongly one way. So that conversation has to happen. The fact that it's hard for us is simply just a psychological thing.
Yeah.
But
sometimes you want it more for the other person than they want it for themselves.
And that's what we found.
That's what makes it tough.
Massively. So we're terrible about that. And that's the biggest piece of what our goal is in 2023 is to be better about managing people.
Yeah.
Because Midwest Cash Offer and Mainstay Property suck. And I hope my people watch this. We suck at having hard conversations.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing to do.
Change is scary, man. And I think that's where a lot of those roadblocks come in. Like, to your point, like they probably know that, hey, I should be doing something else or I want to do something else. But the fear holds them back from changing anything. And so I think you come to terms, like I always use this as an example. I've tried to have more honest conversations, and I'm bad at that too. So I'm with you. But I'm trying to have more honest conversations these days. I made a commitment to Adam. If there's something like I don't like or that I'm concerned about, I'll talk to him. He's done the same thing to me. So now instead of sitting around and just being like, oh, I can't believe Adam did that, that son of a bitch, and me boiling, or something like that, which honestly doesn't happen much. I'm just as an example, and then I just go, hey man, what do you think about this? And it's the same example of like, you ever have like an argument with somebody, whether it be a significant other or a friend, and you're just like, I hate that son of a bitch. I hope he dies. And then you have a conversation with them, and you're like, you know what, dude, they're really not that bad. You said have a conversation.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it's amazing what comes to light when you just have an open and honest conversation. As hard as they are, but once the hardest part about the conversation is starting it. Once you start talking, typically things open up. You start understanding other people's opinions. You start digging into real problems. And most of the time, it's not even the real problems. Like I hate that son of a bitch's dark gray shirt. I like light gray. But really, it's because I don't like his face.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not the shirt at all.
Especially
Mainly
because you
his
bought
face.
this one for me. So hold on.
Well, it's funny, like even because you're right. There's so much of that applies professionally, but also personally.
Yeah, personally as well. Absolutely.
And my wife and I just last night, similar conversation. She's like, we're opening an event venue. I'm not sure if you knew that or not.
No.
Actually, no. You guys bid out that roof for us.
Oh,
You guys bid out that roof, and we're still messing with that damn thing.
Cool.
So
Is that in Green something?
Greensburg.
Yeah.
Greensburg.
Okay. One of the greens.
One of the greens. Green Castle, Greenwood, Greenfield, Greensburg. It's in Greensburg, and she's like, we've taken the vast majority of our savings and poured it into this big thing. It's a great project. It's going to be profitable. But man, that was a fun bank account to look at for a long time, and now it's like, what are we doing? So you start having these weird conversations like, hey, and again, getting that kicked off was the hardest thing for her. And I didn't even bring it up. It was my wife.
Yeah.
And my wife's twice as smart as all of us put together. She's extremely type A. She knows what she wants, knows how to get it. And she struggled to bring it up.
Yeah.
That I am telling you, for everyone listening right now and for all the gentlemen in this room, that the cause of and solution to all life's problems are centered around communication.
Yeah.
You look at, I don't care if it's the political climate you want to talk about, which I don't want to talk about that. I don't care if it's business or relationship or whatever. Most of the time it's because someone is, we just don't know how to have that conversation. or how to start it or how to bring it up. And most of the time, to your point, Aaron, once the conversation's brought up, it's easy to have, but it's like, man, I don't, and it probably comes from a good place, right? Like, I don't want to hurt the person's feelings. But, what I've learned from a leadership perspective is, number one, leadership's in the moment. And so, Durango, maybe you can attest to this or not, but like if there's something small, I try to intentionally find things sometimes that are small adjustments or tweaks that need to be made with people that I get to work with, just so they're used to me giving them advice or tweaks or adjustments to make. Because in that way, whenever there's big things that need to change, they accept it as just what it is. It's feedback. It's not reprimanding. It's not it's not a hard conversation for me to have. And hopefully, my hope is that it's not as hard of a conversation to hear on the other side as well, because again, that feedback is just constantly there. And so, but I think, again, a lot of things in life, if people would just be willing to have a conversation in the first place,
you can find common ground.
You'll find the common ground and the solution to whatever it is.
I think, and to your point, I can talk about this forever, because this is something my wife and I butt heads on sometimes, is how bringing up the conversation is just one thing, but how's the other person interpret it? Mm-hmm. You want to talk about something, again, if we're being fully transparent, I am terrible at receiving feedback. I got to be Mr. Man all the time. So when that's brought up to me, it's like, well, it's a direct assault. And we have employees, we have we're sales shop just like you guys are, right? So you get type A guys, sales guys, KPIs, the whole fit. You got to close. And having that conversation and making sure they're receptive to it, that's a delicate dance. Yeah. And you got to have the right leader in place to have those conversations, or else that gets really hairy really fast. So salute to you. It seems like you guys have found the magic sauce and making it happen.
I don't know that it's a constant work. And Durango, I kind of think I saw you nodding along over there. Does it work when I do that, or are you like, bro? You do that, but it's terrible. Okay, he's nodding along for those who can't see him. Feedback is I've used to be where it was really tough for me to get feedback, and even sometimes, depending on what it is, if somebody gives me feedback on something that I know that I struggle with, it's hard for me to hear it.
Same.
That's the one that hurts. If someone gives me feedback on like, hey, you're terrible at pool, like that hurts me because I know that I'm terrible at pool. So this is exactly the kind of example. Thanks, Aaron.
Aaron gave me a nice little wink as soon as he said that.
Yeah, exactly. But if it's something that I don't even know that I'm bad about, I'm like, oh, cool, thanks for the feedback. It's not bad. But what I've learned to do is anytime somebody offers me feedback, as much as I possibly can, I just try to smile at them and say thank you. And then I go back and internalize it, and sometimes I marinate on it, and marinate, another word that I would use is sometimes I'll just stew on it and like, what did they mean by that?
I think though on that, at the time, sometimes even it can hurt. Mm-hmm. But I think if you really think about it later on, it should have been said. You know what I mean? Because these are things that you work on. Like you ever...
Oh, what did Sean say just a little bit ago? Everyone wants to be a diamond, but nobody wants to be cut. This is perfect.
I love that. No, but like if you have ever listened to a recording of yourself and then you're like, how many times...
Do I sound like that?
Yeah, how many times did I say these things are selling like hotcakes? Like, I'm never saying that again. Right. But like just by hearing these things, like you could improve yourself. And that same thing applies to other people giving you constructive feedback. It may hurt or sting or cut, thanks to Sean, but it's going to eventually make you better.
That's where this thing all stemmed is we were talking about our soon-to-be event venue, which I can dive into or not. But same story, I'm Mr. Business Guy, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mr. Real Estate, where this is, in the theory, a perfect culmination of all those things. But, I don't know anything about running an event venue.
Yeah.
Anything, right? And I'm looking at you because I know Derek's in the middle of one on top of one in Franklin.
Yeah, in Franklin, yeah.
And similar situation. His is a church, mine's a church, so converted in a neat little spot in a county seat, like eerily comparable. Business guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, like, watch, Derek can do it, I can do it, and I'm not near the entrepreneur Derek Christie is. But
he doesn't know anything about running an event center either, though.
And that's the thing.
He's going to lease it out.
So that's where I don't know if we're headed that direction, but they have those conversations, and to have my wife of all people, extremely smart, gets it. She's like, well, you don't know anything about running an event venue business. And to hear that, man, that's the cut.
Ouch.
Yeah. That's alcohol in a gaping wound, man. Like, what do you mean? That's why we're here. So, that's personally, that's a difficult thing for me to overcome. But if I can learn how to receive that feedback, I think it'll be better for me, and I've become better at it by having those difficult conversations with my people.
I think we have that in common, though. Me and you are both more of like the if you build it, they will come type of people. Like just jump in with both feet, and I didn't even look down. Right. I literally did that. I realized
my heart's thumping right now.
I realized this is
emotion, logic.
This is actually the physical embodiment of that. I was in Jamaica on my honeymoon with my wife, and we went 4-wheeling, and we were covered in mud. And I wasn't thinking. And at the end, they were like, hey, does anybody want to jump off this cliff into the water down here? And I didn't
Nothing
even
shady about that at all.
I just took off running and dove over head first.
It was a joke.
And then I was like, I was like, what the fuck did I just do? And like I'm looking down, like, thank God it's water. And then I came up and I'm fine and whatever. Nobody else jumped, not one person. I didn't even look. I did not hesitate. I didn't jump feet first. I jumped head first.
Was it a huge like cliff?
Yeah, it was probably a 30 banger.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude.
I did the 15-foot diving board the other day at Freedom Park and was like, this is terrible.
I had shoes on still. The guy was like a photographer at the end. Like, I got that CD somewhere. I'll see if I can find our DVD.
Throw that up there, Durango.
I'll see if Whitney, can you find it? Yeah. So
that's fantastic. One last thing on this topic. This has been a lot of fun. Just for anyone else that's kind of struggles with that, which I think we all do, and it's. Acceptance is the first step, right, of anything. Something that Aaron and I committed to each other, which he kind of started on this path. I thought he was going to go down that way. But while there is no emotion and while there is no topic even, he and I have agreed to, like, on a once-a-month basis, Aaron, I need your feedback so I can become better because I've kind of become a feedback junkie now at this point. And so, hey, I want you to give me one thing that you think I'm doing really well in and one thing that you think that I could be doing better. And so now I'm asking for that feedback before it's in a moment. So now I know on a monthly basis when we sit down and have this conversation, in my mind it's, hey, number one, I asked for this, so don't get mad about anything that I get or offended or anything else.
I got a blank check.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, well, calm down.
But what's cool about that too is, and not that it was planned this way or anything, he said, hey, I love that. Will you do the same thing for me as well? And so now we kind of have this dialogue on a regular basis where, hey, it's just expected in our regular dialogue and conversation that we're going to give each other feedback. Where are we doing well? I think we're both pretty motivated. We don't necessarily need a lot of pats on the back, and yet everyone likes a pat on the back. And then at the same time, like, hey, here's where a miss might have been, or something along those lines.
Yeah, and to your point about acceptance too, is this is just an arrogance thing on my end, and I accept that I'm bad at this, and I've said that to my wife, I've said that to my people. If this is something I get mad about behind the scenes without having communication with you, then I've failed, right?
Yeah,
right.
You shouldn't have to ask me because I'm the leader, I'm the guy. So, man, that took years for me to kind of get around to, just accepting that I'm bad at that. But it's done wonders over the last handful of months where, like you said, if you can just be open to it and ask for it on a regular basis, it'll change pretty quickly.
Yeah, the good news for that is with you or me or Adam or Durango or anybody watching, all of these things, once they're identified and accepted, they're all stuff that can be worked on and fixed and improved. And some of it comes with age. Like, obviously my brain now works completely different than it did 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So, I mean, I feel like some of it's came with age in general, and then some of it's came from things that I've worked hard on because I wanted to improve, from reading and studying and going to courses and working on myself. But you have to be willing to listen, put aside your ego and work on these things and improve.
Oh, that's cool. That's good stuff. Hey, let me ask you this. So, you're in the housing industry and all of that. I think there's a lot of questions and uncertainty and the housing market in general and just, the finance in general. Where's your mind at as things go, whether that's from a nationwide perspective or even just here locally in the Indiana area?
I love getting these questions. I've never been asked it on a podcast before, and I refuse to put this stuff in writing, so it's funny this is going to be recorded and published. Anyone watching?
Yes.
I tell my folks all the time, by the way, this is an Evan Manship special. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. So we're going to talk about anything else. So for the first time ever, my thoughts here, candidly. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, obviously, which is a lame answer. But I got a degree in economics and finance. big fan of keep it simple, stupid. You'll see my stuff on Facebook all the time. Basics is the motto that we have, basics. The basic principle behind where we're at now in the housing market, whether the interest rates are skyrocketing or people can't build new stuff and supply costs are through the roof, is exactly that. Supply and demand. A lot of people, probably people sitting in this room, have mortgages that are locked in at 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, 4%, and they will never sell their home. Why? What are you going to buy, right? Hell, you guys were looking at a new place a handful of months ago just the same way, and it's like, well, if you got to sell what you have now to go and tackle something at a 7%, 8%, 9% interest rate, for the people that don't have the luxury of paying cash for things, what are you going to buy, genuinely? Yeah. So supply will continue to stay low, in my opinion, which means demand will outpace supply, which means there's constantly going to be some element of increased demand, or at least that differential, that delta between supply and demand will always be in demand's favor until, again, not to make this political, but until local governments grow up and let people buy, develop, and build more things. So I'm a build new affordable housing at all costs type guy. And until they give the green light for developers and builders, construction people to build, to grow, to put more density behind things, I think we're in a perpetual cycle of demand continuing to outpace supply simply by nature of population growth. So interest rates, put them at 8, 9, 10%, see what happens. You'll ruin the economy before you get new people in houses. But I think we'll see another, I think today, right? Today we'll get another 25-point raise in interest rates, and then it'll go back to 4.5%, 5% before too long.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? The part that I can't wrap my head around, and I'm sure it's got to be localized. It's probably got to be a little bit of immigration. It's got to be maybe a little bit of just people becoming of home buying age. But then most of it, I kind of had this theory of it is here in the Indianapolis market, or Indiana market even in general, is, when COVID hit and all these big businesses figured out how to let people work from home, everyone said, all right, cool, I don't have to be by this office anymore. I can be in a different state. I can be in a different, just in a different location altogether, right? And so I'm guessing, I haven't studied the population of Chicago and New York and LA and all that kind of stuff, but again, from what I see just from a political climate, it seems like a lot of people are moving out of the cities and then buying kind of more in states like Indiana. Is that
we've always had out of state investors? That's where we spend a lot of our time and effort. Is these dentists in Seattle who will make $1 million a year, whatever. But that's not a lot of money in Seattle. So they want to take their fee money, what we call fee money, and place it into investment income in more affordable places where the ROI is higher, i.e. the hillbilly Midwest, which is where we find ourselves today. That being said, you guys would be dumbfounded by how many people just said, why would I invest there when I can just move there? Full-blown move there. And I'm talking uproot families, uproot lives, uproot careers, uproot you name it. Off the top of my head, a dozen folks that I know that just, we're talking 25 years old to 50 years old that just said, later, we're going to move on from the life we built and the families we've known in Sacramento and just start a new life in the crossroads. Yeah, so that's becoming more of a thing. And I can't fathom that. But again, we've not been in that situation where our mortgage payment's $12,000 a month. So I think the market is kind of making people make weird decisions they otherwise wouldn't make. But at the same time, people are opening their eyes to affordability kind of runs the world now.
Yeah. And I get it. You see some of these tax rates in these major metropolitan areas, and it's just like, I don't want to, over half your paycheck's gone when you get it, man. And it's just bananas. Like California people are.
One of my closest cousins, and this is a personal anecdote here, but this kind of bodes to what my thought process is here with the difference between even Indianapolis and Chicago, two Midwestern cities, relatively large. Cook County, Illinois, property tax rate, depending where you're at, it's 9%. Right? Yeah. The property values are outrageous, right? So you can have $1 million condo, right? 9% was $90,000 a year divided by 12 is what? $8 grand ish, $7 a year. Yeah. I'm sorry, a month. As long as you're around, just in property, it's never going to happen. Like
you can never get rid of it.
Ever.
That is ever. Who sings that song? You got me mind moving up.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice. Yeah, so that's not sustainable. The sustainable thing is again, everyone's struggling with it, but affordability is huge.
Yeah. We just got our 3% tax bill for this building. It's like,
How's that looking?
Yeah, it's not fun, but it's not 9%. Silver lining.
This conversation just went down the tubes real quick. Well, that's and he's talking actually for residential.
That's
Imagine what it's
residential.
got to be for commercial.
I don't even want to know. So that means the rents are insane, because you got to cover that stuff because the owners aren't paying it; they're passing it right on to the tenants.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts.
I can go on and on about it. My first gig out of college was doing property tax stuff.
Yeah.
And I always ask the question, why aren't we in Chicago? Why aren't we in Chicago? And they're like, it's crooked. It's crooked. Don't even ask questions. It's crooked.
Yeah.
And you start looking into it a little bit, and it's like, it's not even like hidden crooked anymore. It's just flat
That's
out in the
the
open
part that I
crooked.
hate about politics these days is they don't even try to hide it anymore. It's just like, we're just taking your money.
Yeah. It's got like sunglasses and a fake mustache on it.
Yep.
Like,
Exactly.
That's why we're in Indiana, baby.
Exactly. Well, hey, one last thing here before we wrap up. We've talked, I think, a little bit about it with the cars and some of the things that you like, but obviously we've talked a lot about the business side and leadership side of things. But what do you really enjoy for fun? Obviously, you've got the new baby girl at home, but besides that, what are some hobbies and things that you like to do in your spare time?
how do you play harder? I guess is the thing here.
Man, that's a good question. I'm a big college basketball guy. So March is a federal holiday for our office. It feels like quite literally we give everyone off the Thursday and Friday of March Madness simply so I don't have to work and I can just watch. We have everyone over for.
He does it for you guys, not for
That's
himself.
right. That's right. That's right. It's for my people. But we open the doors of the office and have a bunch of vendors and stuff, and we just get food catered in, and we get a couple kegs, and we just kind of hang out and watch basketball. So basketball is a big part of my life.
That's cool.
Certainly college basketball. I'm a recovering 3-putter. So golf is
I've never heard. Oh, that's funny.
full transparency. I read that on Twitter, but it's the truth. I like to golf. I am terrible at golf, so it's one of those things. I guess it's like doing Sudoku or something. It's not. It's fun, but it's not. So I like to golf, and then mainly family's super important to me. I'm an extrovert. I love going hanging out with my wife, hanging out with little one, and I'm a identical twin. So I got a built-in business partner, best friend, everything I do, which is super fun. So, big family guy, big golf guy, Midwestern hillbilly, man. Let's grill a steak, hang out by the pool, and that's the best type of afternoon I can think of.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Do you? So, I don't know that I've ever had the opportunity to talk to are you identical or what do we got going on here? Twin.
I'm not sure what you mean by the second question. But
Well, I just are you and your brother? Are you identical twins?
We're identical. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Apparently, that means we share DNA, which means it's.
Yeah, so like if I punch you in the right arm right now, he's gonna feel it. According to that
means if
special I saw on Oprah.
It means that it means that if I kill you,
I got the angle on that one.
and there's blood. That's funny.
Yeah.
It means if my blood gets on you, he could be put in prison or vice versa.
Oh.
So I'm not sure he'll feel
So
anything.
yeah, don't kill me.
Don't test me. He's a good egg. I'll bring him in here at some point, but he's a good egg. He runs our Midwest Cash Offer seller-facing side of things, and I run our mainstay investor side of things.
Does he like to golf too?
He is worse than I am, and he will admit to that. He can hit it farther, but it goes in the woods. So what kind of good is that?
Yeah.
I got you. Where's your favorite place to golf?
Well, I could crawl to Eagle Creek Golf Course from my house.
Oh, that's a pretty fun course.
So,
It's
it's
a little
okay.
long.
Have we been there?
No.
Little public course.
Put it on the list.
We live right on the water in Eagle Creek. My wife grew up on 300 acres in Greensburg.
Okay.
And she wanted a little bit more privacy, and I grew up in the burbs, so we kind of compromised and did the Eagle Creek thing.
Do they still
That's
have
cool.
that 300? Does the family still have that 300 acres?
Yeah, they do. Let's see. I should know this now. They do soybeans, not human corn, but like feed corn.
Okay.
And then they do alfalfa in the off season. I say off season. Cover crops.
Yeah.
Off season. And they do a black Angus. They just sold all their black Angus. So,
That's cool.
That's awesome, man.
so I married a Midwestern farm girl. Yeah,
That's awesome,
farmer's
man.
daughter. So
Hey, they got a
You
lot of
listen to country
songs about
music?
her,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, hold on.
I do, but I feel like everything always references something that's about my life, and I feel like I'm being unfairly targeted by country music artists nowadays.
It's like, yeah,
I'm like, I went to Center
following
Grove,
along
man.
with me.
I went to Center Grove, grew up in a subdivision. This is unfair.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun, man. Thanks for coming in and joining us. I think you brought in some really interesting perspectives and some things for us to all to think about and to grow from, which is the whole point of this.
It's been fun, man.
thanks.
Thanks for having me. We'll do it again for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We always appreciate somebody coming in and more than share, give some information out, learn about each other, but have fun, man.
Yeah, have fun. It's important to be vulnerable, and like you said, kind of accepting that we can all learn from each other, and iron sharpens iron. So that's why I'm here.
There we go. That's
Let's
awesome.
get some back.
Thank you all again so much for listening in. Make sure that you like and subscribe, smash that bell, get the notifications. What else am I supposed to say during it?
What's the thing? Is there any hashtags?
That's the hardest. He's
He's
laughing all day.
got to do this
Smash the
thing.
I know. No, but seriously, we do appreciate you tuning in and listening. Let us know what else you want to hear from us. We keep on going along and talking to some of our friends and getting some unique perspectives. Aaron,
Yeah.
I don't know what I have to say to you right now.
No, yeah, if you guys appreciated any of this or liked any part of this, if you didn't learn anything, that's fine. If you laughed even, all we have is that you could share it with a friend. So
Share it with a friend.
Share it with a friend.
And in true fashion to today's conversation, give us some feedback. We would like to ask for your feedback. So put a comment in. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But if it's a thumbs down, know that we will hunt you. We will find you.
Make sure and tag Adam in all the thumbs downs. That's for Adam.
Yeah.
That's for Adam.
All right. Hey, till we meet again, thanks again so much for being here on the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast.
See you guys.